Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that if you like what Kim and I talk about today, we have a membership community at PM Happy Hour where experienced and interesting and talented project managers just like you who are big nerds about getting projects done and doing it the most effective way spend time together and get better as project managers. We have over 200 members in our community. We host monthly members only happy hours where you get to work with Kim and I on problem solving. We provide coaching, guidance, tips, and expertise. Kim and I are also available for coaching if you want to look at that. But come check out the Project Management Happy Hour community. We would love to have you there, where you can get templates, resources, and skills to avoid falling into a project with lessons not learned.
Check it out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour Lessons Not Learned, where we chat about projects that really missed the mark. Because there's nothing more interesting than project failure when it's not your project.
You're so obsessed with project failure.
All right. I'm Kim Essendrup, project manager, coach, and speaker. And with me, as always, is the lovely, the amazing, the powerful Kate Anderson.
Hi, Kim. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I think I'm doing really well. I feel like I have had a really good month so far. March has been good to me, I feel like.
I am feeling surprisingly good. I just got back in from Sweden 2 nights ago, real late. So yesterday I was crushed by jet lag, but today I'm speaking English. I'm doing pretty good.
Well, I'm very excited to try this format today. This is something that Kim and I have been talking about for a bit, which is what if we were to do something where we just kind of, look at real world projects and see what lessons we can learn from them. But longtime listeners of PM Happy Hour now, Kim loves project failure. And so, of course, the first thing that Kim's going to take us through is going to be a massive screw up that he knows a lot about. I know, and for context for our audience, I know nothing about this. So I'm very excited to talk through, give my impressions, have Kim share everything he knows about it, talk through maybe what could have gone better, and that's going to be what we do today.
Yeah, and a little more background is we want to look at projects that have gone wrong in some way or many ways. And we want to try to extract lessons learned from that. It's not really to talk down about the people who are involved in the project, whether
Of course
whether they
not.
were stakeholders or they ran the project. Because I tell you what, I've been there. I've had my share of project challenges. And we just want to be constructive and try to see what can we learn from these projects.
Absolutely. Yes. And I as well could have articles written about projects I've been on that have failed, right? A project is a team effort. It is not always the project manager's fault. It's often not just the project manager's fault that a project fails. So keep that in mind. We're not here to disparage anybody. We're here to mutually commiserate in how hard it can be to get things done in work and business today.
And if you happen to have been involved in the project we're going to talk about today, feel you.
All right, Kim, tell me, what project are we talking about today? Tell me about it.
All right, so we're talking about a project that was sponsored by the state of Maine. Back in 2016, Maine set out to replace its 30-plus-year-old HR and payroll systems, which is built on COBOL. It's an old mainframe system that did all the payroll and all the HR stuff, really out of date. It was slow and flexible, getting really risky to operate because it's hard to find people who can keep those things up to date. I don't even know if there's security patches for that stuff. So big risk keeping this really old system operational for all employees of the state of Maine. And so they had this goal to modernize the state's HR system, improve payroll accuracy, simplify hiring, benefits, all that good stuff. Now, let's talk some parameters here. So project scope, budget. The original project budget, $15 million. Timeline, 2 to 3 years, aiming to go live by 2018, maybe 2020. The scope is full HR modernization, payroll, benefits, time tracking, recruiting, all built on some kind of modern cloud-based system. Ooh. What could
don't
go
don't
wrong?
tip your hand too much.
Okay. So I'll tell you how the project starts off.
So this is for the state of Maine. So 15 million for anybody, like, to update HR and payroll for anybody who works and lives, or excuse me, for anybody who works for the state of Maine.
Right, because all their payroll, all the HR stuff was managed out of this ancient mainframe, and they wanted to swap that out and give proper services. Because I can't imagine that this COBOL-based HR system would let you have a web interface to go and check your payroll or stuff like that.
Probably not. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. All right. Okay. So do we know how many people worked for the state of Maine?
About 12,000.
Okay. Not nothing, but like the size of a mid-sized company.
Size of a good sized company. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So 2016, the project begins. They hire this organization called Infor, and they get going. They're awarded $13.5 million contract to implement the new system, expected to go live in 2018. So I'll stop there. That's a brief overview of the project. So what do you think went wrong with this?
It must have gone horribly wrong. So, and the original budget is 15 million, I think, right?
They allocated 15. The contract they awarded to the contractor was 13 and a half.
For 12,000 people, which is honestly like not a lot of people. I mean, 15 million seems high already, but if it went really wrong, okay, I'm going to guess a budget. All right. So if it went really wrong, I guess I'm like 30 million or 45. I don't know. We're going to say 30 million. We're going to say they've spent double the budget, and it was supposed to go live in 2020 at the latest. And they started this in 2016, and 2020 is supposed to be the latest. I don't know. We're going to go with, part of me is like 2022 is whenever it goes live. So that's what I think happened. And I'm hoping, look at me. I'm like, and I believe that it got done. I don't know if that's true, but I am cheering for project completed. Oh, that feels like the first thing. Did the project get completed? Yes, but double the budget and 2 years later from their latest estimate is what I think happened. Tell me how it went.
You ready for the litany of pain?
I mean, I feel so bad for this project manager. And at this point, I'm also guessing more than one project manager, right? I bet somebody, if it went this badly, I bet somebody quit and somebody else came in. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to keep doing this.
Two somebodies.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so project gets going, awarded $13.5 million. Infor is working hard, presumably. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of detail on this part of the project. What we know, based on the public articles and what we can find that's registered through the state of Maine, is that in June of 2018, 2 years with no working product, Maine fires Infor. They scrap the entire project. Done. Start from zero.
Did they spend their whole 13.5 on it?
Near as I can tell, they didn't pay them anything. I can't really tell. There's not a lot of details.
Okay. All right. So may or may not have paid Infor for the original contract that they did.
Yeah, so their Infor is probably not happy with the way this thing went. Just gone.
Probably not.
So state of Maine says, that was terrible. We're going to start over and it's going to be great. So 2018, Maine goes to a company called Workday. Workday is a big HR software company. Hopes are high. Everyone's excited. The new contract is worth $15 million to Workday, who will provide both the software and the implementation services, with an expected go live in 2020.
Okay. All right. So still on track with our latest budget date, or the latest project schedule date. And if they truly did not pay the first contract or anything, we're still on budget. We're just only at our worst case delivery timeline. Okay. So far, not too bad.
Salvageable. 2019, the cracks start to show. Early reports show testing issues, lack of staff involvement, poor project management. The January 2020 launch was delayed to April due to major payroll issues. In fact, those payroll issues that came out in testing The payroll testing failed with over 50% of test paychecks being incorrect in their test runs.
Oh no. You can't mess up how you pay people. That is something you cannot go live with bugs.
No, April 2020, the go live is canceled. Maine puts the whole project on hold. It starts to get really interesting in February 2021 rather. The state of Maine, it gets so bad. The state of Maine issues a formal letter, and you can actually read the letter online. We'll put a link to it, where they issued a formal notice to Workday giving it 30 days to sort itself out, or else it's going to cancel the contract and require Workday to pay the state of Maine $22,164,755.
Wow.
So the contract was for $15 million, and the state of Maine is saying, Workday, you're going to pay me $22 million. That's how bad it went. And the breakdown of that is, $7.5 million in payments were made to that had been made to Workday. They wanted Workday to refund. They wanted to charge Workday $12.5 million in costs that the state incurred during the project. And they wanted to charge Workday $2.1 million because they had to keep maintaining the old COBOL-based mainframe.
Wow. Can I read some of this letter?
Yeah.
Incredible. So May 15th, 2020, via email to the VP of Consulting Services at Workday and the VP of Sales. Dear those two people, this communication serves as a follow-up to the discussion that we had yesterday with Maine's Workday project representatives, who are probably the project managers. Almost 18 months ago, the state of Maine signed a contract with Workday for implementation of a new human resource management system. Since then, we have missed 2 go-live dates and find ourselves in the unfortunate position of having to reevaluate all aspects of this project. Despite continued recommendation from Workday's project staff to move forward with an April 1st go-live, an evaluation by our project management office discovered that there were significant gaps in configuration and testing, as well as best practices and methodology that had not been followed. Examples of some of the problems we uncovered include the project timeline contained inappropriate overlapping phases. Exit criteria for the various testing phases were not met. Training and communication were inadequate. Knowledge transfer to state of Maine staff who will be supporting the product was extremely limited, and any attempt to launch the product in its current condition would have been a catastrophic failure. This is good, right? There is shared responsibility for these issues for both the Workday and state of Maine project staff. However, the Workday project staff have shown no accountability for their part in this flawed process. Reports to the executive steering committee throughout the project were rosy and optimistic. At no point was the executive steering committee given any indication of the depth and magnitude of the problems. We hired Workday to lead this implementation with the expectation that you would provide the expertise and guidance needed to be successful, not only to the project staff, but to executive leadership as well. As we attempt to move forward with a renewed implementation effort, we are concerned that the recommendations from Workday's project staff are a continuation of the methodology that resulted in 2 failed go-live attempts. Assurances are being made that Workday staff will do a better job managing the process this time, but our prior experiences cause us to question this. In addition, we've been presented with proposals that would require the state to pay several $1 million more to get a usable system on top of the $7.7 million paid to date. This is not an acceptable solution. While working through the terms and conditions of the next change package, Workday has removed most of their staff from the project, showing a lack of engagement and willingness to work with us. This is not the partnership we need and expect from Workday. We continue to believe that the Workday software will be a good product to meet our HRMS needs. It is critical that we have confidence and trust in our implementation partner. Unquestionably, our goal is to complete this project with a successful launch of the Workday product. We are looking for the same level of confidence that Workday is equally committed to the success of this project. I understand you've asked for a day or two to process the information from yesterday's discussion. Honestly, I'm not sure we have that much time to give you. This project is critically important to the state of Maine, and our dedicated team continues to move forward. We need a committed implementation partner at the table now, directing the efforts as Workday promised to do from the start. We need to come to a realistic agreement on the go-live timeline and cost, an agreement that will result in a successful implementation and provide a foundation for an ongoing partnership between Workday and the state of Maine. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, the commissioner of this project.
Wow.
That's so good. I love that. I love that so much. Flowers to this commissioner. She's crushing it. I love that. That was really good. Good for you, girl.
So let's try to read between the lines here. What are some things we can extract from what we've read so far?
I mean, I will say one of my, it's not a red flag bell, but one of my, intuition with, my, almost 2 decades of project experience is saying, who's difficult to work with between the two of you, right?
Hmm.
Is Maine hard to work with, right? Because Maine has already fired one team and hired a second who's also from Workday taking their people off the project. They like that to me, that's Workday saying, I don't know how to make you happy. To be fair, over the course of 2 years, they paid them $7 million. So divide that by two, that's 3.5 million a year. If you're paying, you're paying several people, right? That's several salaries. Even if you're paying top tier tech salary, right? That's still pretty that's a lot of people that you're paying for. So I'm surprised that they have no path forward. And I also am wondering, what are they doing about the requirements? Because my other project intuition thing is saying, oh, man. An ancient system is challenging to it's challenging to move forward. It's one of the things where it's I hate doing regular software updates on any system, but it is better to do that than to leave something in place for forever and then deal with the consequences of trying to jump forward. There's so many old things that it's so challenging to connect those things. So I don't think this is an easy project. I do think it's very challenging. I'm not sure who's hard to work with and where that blame is lying. And I think this is a fascinating letter because it doesn't, it drags Workday, but it doesn't drag them enough that it seems like Maine's fully in the right. So I'm super curious about what's going on. Those are some of my takeaways. What are some of your takeaways?
I think what we'll see here is that those are some very insightful uh, takeaways from that.
Ooh, am I right? Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's gonna get good. One of the things that really stands out at me is that they've got this multi-year program. They've been going at it for years by this point. They started in 2016. Now it's 2021. Of course, they want this stuff to get done, but this is a multi-year program, and they're getting worked up about somebody wanting a few days to think about it. Then
Ooh,
they
good
set
point.
the letter that came from the state. You've got 30 days to sort all your stuff out. I mean, that's an angry letter, an angry position, but it seems like they're in a really big rush, like go, 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 go in a big project that has big problems. I mean, I would almost think maybe it's time to let's just stop and figure out what's going on because we've already completely failed once. We're already at risk of failing a second time. I understand the sense of urgency, but it seems like there's some big fundamental problems here that need to be sorted out. So saying, give me a response. I know you want ask for a day to respond. Like, okay, that's not
Mm-hmm.
too much to ask.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. It sounds like a miserable project to work on. I will also say that the rosy updates to the committee, I think that is I don't know. It's not double jeopardy, but it's challenging to provide updates to clients. Like when you're a consultant, people want to hear good news, right? And that's one of the ways you keep getting paid is by providing good news. On the contrast of that, one of the ways of being the project manager is to not always provide good news and pull people into problem solving. So I'm very curious how much Maine is owning how hard their system is to update. It sounds like they may not be, and so then then you can talk about any progress is good progress whenever you're the vendor, because it's impossible to fix really big problems in easy ways.
Exactly. And a lot of that comes down to the culture of the organizations involved, especially the sponsoring organization. If they're an organization that is really hard, they beat people up, and they're not going to hear anything unless you give me good news, then it becomes really hard to bring bad news. You still have to bring the bad news, but they can make it difficult, which is not an excuse. It's just sort of a reality.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So state of Maine issues this letter, 22 million bucks, sort out in 30 days or else. What do you think happens in 30 days?
Sort out in 30 days or else we fire you?
Yeah, is basically what the letter was. And this is in February. They say sort it out in 30 days, or you're going to pay us 22 million bucks and you're out.
I doubt they paid them $22 million, but we'll see.
I'm sorry. It's sorted out in 30 days or else you're going to pay us 22 million, just to be clear.
Okay. All right. Okay.
30 days later, in March, Workday's escorted off the premises. They're fired. And the state of Maine took Workday to court. And from what I could read, they came up after quite a while in court, where the state of Maine was going after Workday for 22 million. They came to some kind of negotiated agreement where neither party is accepting blame, and they're not disclosing the details of that settlement.
Oh, rude. I want to know the tea.
Oh, I want to know what they ended up with. To date, Maine has spent $35 million, and they have nothing. They have no system.
Okay.
They have apparently some stuff left, but none of it's really functional or workable. So then you do whatever you do when you're stuck in a position like this, is you call one of the big four consulting agencies. So they called up Accenture and gave them $10.9 million to pick up the pieces and try again.
I'm sure Accenture was elated to get this gig. So great. Incredible.
So the final price tag. So the numbers are a little different depending on the article you look at. Some of them say that the total out of pocket after 6 years is 35 million spent. There are some that say that they're going to be out of pocket as much as $55 million for this $15 million project.
Oh, that's rough.
And near as I can tell, they still don't have one.
Okay. Do we know if Accenture is still working on it?
As near as I can tell, looks like Accenture's still working on it.
Oh, man. That's great. Gosh, I wonder if we have any listeners in Maine who work for the state of Maine and are like, yeah, there was one time when I got my paycheck and it was, 75 cents off, which is still a problem. Like pay is serious. Like it's a contractual agreement between the business and the employee, and you have to pay it. If you don't, there's legal consequences. Every state has laws for being over or underpaid and how quickly you can take that back. Oh, why do I know all of this? Because I was paid incorrectly many times by a contracting agency that messed it up, and they would be like, oh, I'll just take your money back. And I was like, actually, I have rights, and you can't just not pay me for weeks because you overpaid me. You have to deal with this in a different way, and you can garnish me at this percentage, because I was living in the state of Illinois at the time. So way to go, Illinois, for workers' rights. We love that. But yes, it is a very, very serious thing where if they went live incorrectly, it could cost the state of Maine even more money, right? So I wonder if they're also choosing not to go live because of the amount of, essentially compliance repercussions there would be if their payroll system was inaccurate.
Yeah, it's better that they risk it on an old mainframe than implement something that they know is really, really broke.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few more details that came out through some subsequent investigations, and then I've got something really cool to show you.
All right, I'm ready.
So investigations found some of the root cause to be inexperienced and poorly qualified people that were running the project from the state side.
Oh no, you sweet babies, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody said, here is a project. All it is doing our ancient payroll upgrade. What a great opportunity for you to prove yourself. I don't want to do this. I'll give it to the intern. You poor babies. I have been there. You're not alone.
And then there's this part. A state manager was accused multiple times of harassing both state and Workday personnel so bad that the work environment was so toxic that project workers would go outside to cry or sit in silence inside their cars. And this is reported by numerous people that were contractors on the project.
I mean, I've also worked on those projects, and my heart goes out to those people working in that type of environment. Yeah, it was bad.
You put a
Oh,
toxic person like that on a project. I mean, yeah, if you're a contractor, I'm like, you know what? Screw you. I don't care. You're not going to go and work hard for anybody like that.
right. I mean, if that is, so that evidence has been, what's the word, corroborated. So if that's true, then it makes sense to me that Workday be like, yeah, we'll keep working on this, but nobody is coming in to talk to you anymore. Like, we'll go build this code and we're not going to talk to you. Like, that's a reasonable solution.
I've been on projects like that where there were stakeholders on the customer side that they had classic abusive spousal, yeah, it was their behavior. And then here's one more nugget. Ready for this?
Yeah.
The Department of Administrative and Financial Services, which they're kind of the governing body that oversaw this, they're the ones that issued the letter to Workday that said you've got 30 days or I'm going to charge you 22 million bucks.
Gotcha.
To help save the project, the chair, the head of this organization brought in a new in-house project manager to rescue the distressed project.
Oh, they called in their wolf, right? That's what they did. They were like, oh, we bet our wolf can get this done.
It was in-house. Actually, I think it was contract. It wasn't really clear, but it sounded like contract. And the reason this was a little interesting because the project manager they paid to come in and save it was the husband of the commissioner of the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. A little
Oh,
nepotism there, which I guess wasn't strictly illegal, but certainly violated some government ethics.
not a good look. Yeah, and there's more rules about that in government than there is in private business. Yeah, that's fascinating. Oh my goodness. Gosh, I wonder what they paid that man,
I know, right?
right? Like, hey babe, you come fix this. Yeah, babe, I can do anything, Oof, no good. Man, I think I'm still really stuck on this toxic state manager, whoever that person is. I think I really can't overstate how much that ruins project work. I mean, if knowing just what I have learned in the past 30 minutes, I would say that that person would need to be removed from the project in order to be able to have a chance of succeeding. Like, that person can't be on the project. When you work on projects that are so challenging because they are so ancient, like, right, that jump from 30-year-old tech to modern tech where you're skipping a bunch of the steps that make it easier in between, I mean, those are hard, and you need project leadership that can advocate for how challenging your project is. And the thing with work like this is, like, none of this work, to use an industry word, is sexy, right? Nobody is excited about a new HR payroll system. I'm sure the people who work for Maine would appreciate being able to see their paychecks online, as an example, instead of having to get, like, probably a weird downloaded ugly report that, like, doesn't really work very well or takes days to get. But you need a champion, and you need somebody who's like, look, this sucks for everybody. This is a quality of life improvement, but it's going to take a lot of investment. And once we do it, we'll be able to upgrade again. But we're going to be in the trenches figuring this out. And you need that sponsor to really be good partners with everybody who's involved. It's not unreasonable to me that this project budget would have doubled, especially hearing about the type of people who've been on it. But it's also reasonable just based off of, like, underestimating how challenging it is to do this type of work. And I would be miserable working with somebody who berated me every time I tried to bring in a problem. I would end up in my car crying. Like, I would be those same project people, especially if this was me at the beginning of my career, thinking this was like a really great opportunity for me to prove myself. And I got this job and I really believed that this was the opportunity. Ugh, I'd be wrecked. Like, I really feel for this project team. And I don't think we can blame the project manager. At this moment, I'm putting most of the blame on this state manager and probably also on, I don't know where, but somewhere, people not understanding the difficulty of the jump that they're trying to do. And I don't know where that can be squarely blamed, but it has to be a big hurdle to getting things done.
Trust is such an important element of bringing teams together and being able to work together to solve complex problems like this. And a person like this makes it impossible for there to be trust. In fact,
Impossible.
I read it somewhere that there was like a 400% turnover in the team members on this project.
Well, who wants to work with this jerk?
I don't want to work. I don't want it.
I don't want to work with that jerk, right? I think earlier in my career, I also might have put up with that abuse, but it breaks everybody at some point, right? And now with the wisdom and experience that I have, I'd be like, oh, no, thank you. I'm not doing this. I don't want to work with people that don't appreciate what I'm bringing, right? Like, I trust that you are good at your job. I'm working with you on what you want to get done. You're going to berate me because you didn't like what I brought you, even though it's the truth. Sorry, bud. Not a match. No, thank you.
So I have an exhibit to share.
I'm ready.
So all this terrible stuff goes wrong, tens of millions of dollars wasted. And somebody at the state of Maine says, why don't we get an independent third-party audit of this project?
Everybody loves an audit. And do you know what this sounds like, though? This sounds like your idea for, guys, why don't we take a break? Why don't we see what's really going on? Like, this to me sounds like that. Like, why don't we get a third-party auditor in here to tell us what's going wrong? Somebody with no bias about this X amount of millions of dollars we've invested so far. So this is what that sounds like.
It does. And what's really cool is this is all public record. So I can share with you today a link. And we'll just kind of flip through it pretty quickly. The lessons learned. And so far, we think we've got a picture of everything that went wrong. And some of those things probably were very wrong. But there's another part of the story. You ready?
I am ready.
This is the actual lessons learned document from this third-party consultant.
I want everybody to know I'm looking at beveled edges in a Microsoft PowerPoint template. It's looking great.
I know. I saw that. I was like, oh, bevel, not the bevel. All right. So purpose, provide an objective assessment of state of Maine. So when you see SOM, that's state of Maine within this presentation. Just status of this. So this is week ending January 22nd. This is the final report.
Great.
Workstream grading. What is ready for go live? Nothing.
Oh, I'm looking at 3 columns. 1, ready for go live. 2, some concerns. 3, significant work required. This is great. Ready for go live. Nothing in the column.
Yes. Some concerns, a whole bunch of stuff. Significant work, 2 big bullets.
Okay.
Let's scroll down. And then there's just, it looks like here's how we did our analysis.
Got a pie chart. Always makes you look good when you got a pie chart in a consulting document.
You got to have it. You have to have that.
Gotta have it.
Okay. Now, I won't talk through all these, but we're looking at a table and it's calling out all of the main problems that they found, what the impacts were, what their recommendations were, and proposed timeline for resolving. So resource problems. Resources changed over the course of the project. As I said, I read something like 400%.
Duh. Yeah. Do you think a project with 400% turnover is 4 years? I don't know, over timeline and at least 100% or 200% over budget. I don't know. We're doing the math on that. Could have good morale? No, that's not possible for people to be like, yeah, and I love what I'm doing on this project that never ends and no one likes and people are mean to me about. Yeah, of course they are.
And so the impacts, they had no consistent subject matter experts. And there's all this weird, one-offs and corner cases in HR for payroll and all this stuff. And they couldn't keep an SME on the project.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, earlier I was talking about like that technical piece of it, trying to figure out somebody's not understanding the technical stuff. There it is. No consistent SME to confirm or test requirements. You need one person or one well-documented repository. So it's either a person or well-done documentation that says exactly everything that needs to be done. Yep, there it is.
Project management, the plans kept changing, the deadlines are changing, resources are not around when needed. They didn't have representation from 3 branches or 3 teams in the government, so they didn't have all their stakeholders involved.
Oh, yeah, no good. And, I would bet that jerk manager didn't help with that, right? Who wants to work with jerk manager? Nobody.
And as a direct result of people changing all the time, they had to keep retraining people, which kept pushing out so what a mess. They called out in change management was a mess because they kept having to change the plan and they couldn't focus on the next thing they had to release because they kept having to go back and recommunicate things that they were already trying to do and undo stuff because the requirements kept changing and the processes kept changing. So they could never communicate going forward because they kept having to recommunicate stuff that they already communicated.
Yeah, I've been there. This is so interesting. These do come with recommendations. If you scroll back up for a second, the on the team with the project, current resources are project and change fatigued. Their recommendation was give employees dedicated time off. Like that's like things have to be pretty bad to say give these people a break, right? Like you have the times whenever when I've had great bosses in my life have given me a break, it's after like 6 months of like sprinting on something to deliver a major initiative, and they're like take the week off, like go away and recharge because they know that you're burnt out. So they had to have a third. So there's no good managers in here who are saying to these people, go take a break. This has been hard. In the 6 years that this project has been going on, that's rough.
That's a really good call out. I mean, how bad is it when a third-party consultancy comes in to analyze your project and one of the main bullet points they come out with is, dude, give your people some time off.
Yeah. The proposed timeline is immediately. What should you do immediately? Give your team time off. Like, which I personally want to say, I think is a brilliant and correct recommendation. This team definitely deserves a break, right? It doesn't matter if people are like, it hasn't been done. It's like, it hasn't been done for 6 years, dude. And now it's 36 years old. We just have to deal with it, right? So like give them 2 weeks off so that they can come back and maybe be a little bit refreshed for work. Like that makes a ton of sense for me.
Shout out to IJA Strategies, the consultancy who put this together.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We've got a few more pages of recommendations here. We won't go through them all, but I'll call out a couple and you can shout out a couple that really catch your eye too. What I found was really interesting here is that there's a call out that configuration changes continue to be made as new staff review previous design decisions. And so reading through a number of these bullet points, what it seems like was happening was people were coming in and out of the project so much from the state of Maine. And what would happen is a new person would come on and say, why are we doing it this way? We shouldn't do it this way. Let's go change the way we do it, which would affect the way the entire system would go, which means that they would have to go back, reconfigure everything, get different data, and then go back through testing again. And just sort of this never ending cycle of people getting fed up, burnt out, leaving, new people, new requirements, change it all, burning people out, and then repeat.
Yep. I like this next one. The state of Maine has documented policies that are being interpreted differently by different agencies, which means that whatever configuration somebody puts in place, that's built to match the policy interpretation that that agency had. So if you gave me a document that said, we're going to have blue outlines on these things, and I put in baby blue, and you have your agency and you put in navy blue, right? That's a silly example, but if we were to extrapolate that to payroll, right? And they said, we pay people twice a month, and you decided that was 2 Fridays, and I decided that was the 1st and the 15th. Or if I decided it was the 1st and the 15th, and you decided it was the 15th and the 31st, or the 30th, right? No good, right? Those are very different things, and those would have really different consequences. And if you put them together, you could pay people 3 times a month, which is also bad. Like, oh my gosh. It's interesting. There are so many of the recommendations, not just for these, but for others, that all say, review your requirements, review your requirements, review your requirements. The requirements on this project were never clear. And one of the things that you and I harp on all the time is that projects don't fail because of something insane that happens. Projects fail because of the basics. What are the basics of this project? The requirements. So you need to get extremely clear on what you're building so you can go build it.
Really, when I look at all these bullet points in this analysis, one of the main problems to me seems like a fundamental failure from a change management perspective. Requirements were changed. And then there's also a lot of talk on this slide in particular about all the problems with data, because you can't test anything unless you've got good data. Nobody owned the data. Nobody kept the data clean. The data was bad coming from the other systems. And so without any control over changes to requirements, changes to configurations, changes to the data, how can you possibly expect that anything is going to work?
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like, in order to do change management, you have to have established in the first place what it is you're doing so that then when you are going to change it, you can say, right, this first requirement said blue. To make this more clear, this is going to be teal blue, a choice neither you or I made in the example that I gave. And then now everyone knows it's going to be teal blue. And yeah, like absolutely pitiful documentation on this project. And I have to say, in projects that I've gone to rescue, Kim, that I often find there's no documentation. That seems to be a really big thread in projects that fail, that there's not enough written down about what you're trying to achieve. And once you get into like what you know you want to do, it's specifically how you're going to do it. And then you run into exactly what they're describing here.
Yep. And when you've got tough customers from that are in the management, they're going to say, no, you did it wrong. Do it this way. No, do it this way. No, do it this way. No, I'm not saying a change order. They just make the life worse.
I mean, even in the letter that I read, right? It's there, it does not explicitly call out what they did wrong. Like, when I would have known that Maine was 100% in the right if that letter was specific, right? If that letter had said, "You agreed to deliver, name of new system with XYZ capabilities on this date," and then to date, we don't have schematics, we don't have schemas, we don't have employees, we don't have training, right? If they had explicitly listed out what was missing, we would know Maine is in the right because Maine would have pushed them to say, make this for us. And then they would have been like, we don't have anything. Oh no. But with lack of, right, clear documentation and like clear project scope management, change management, and documents that describe what exactly we're doing, no requirements, traceability matrix, right? Without those things, they can't write snarky emails that put them 100% in the right. So yeah, that makes sense to me.
So there's testing. Gosh, there's so many pages on this. This is the last page.
Requirements documentation out of date. So sorry, I got excited. I said it out loud because I can't stop harping on it. Look at these requirements. They're not doing a good job. Go ahead.
And so here's something. So being on the implementation side, the contractor side, this part just absolutely set me off. The issue was manual configurations in the software were being done by the state of Maine for every build. And I don't know much about this particular platform, but if you've got the customer in there making all kinds of changes to the configurations, that's a problem because they're not contractually responsible for delivering a functional system. The partner is Workday.
Mm-hmm.
And so the impact here is listed. The configurations were not reviewed by Workday. And so they could be completely incorrect, which introduces new risks into every single build. So there were people on the state side going in and making changes to the system, and they were holding Workday accountable for whether or not the system worked.
Oh, yeah. No
There were
good.
no change freezes, no configuration freezes, just complete chaos is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that is, yes. Yep. I love the proposed timeline. Confirm dates of freeze in project plan, right? There should be a configuration freeze that's adhered to. And then don't leave a phase without sign off on configuration. Hey, Kim, is that, I don't know, would you say that's like the basics?
Nah, we
Like,
don't need
hey,
that sign
girl,
off.
we don't need a sign off. Hey, girl, love you. Looks great. Bye. Like, I didn't read it. You're great. You know what I mean? We can't, oh my God, this project is a mess. I would have run from this project.
Configuration, schmiguration, we're agile. That stuff will just change. It don't matter.
I mean, I don't think that's what they're doing, right? I think there's no one at Maine who can sign off on this stuff, right? I would bet that Workday asked for someone. Maine said no. Maybe state manager was a jerk about it, and then Workday was like, "All right, well, we'll just keep going." Like oh gosh, I would love to see the raid log for the project manager from Workday. Oh, I would love that.
There is no way there was a raid log within 500 miles of this project because if there was, if you're on either side, you would have pulled that RAID log out and say, here's all the
True.
risks that you were responsible for. Here's all the dependencies that you didn't fulfill. Here's all the issues you didn't respond to. Here's the audit log for every single one of them. I guarantee you there was no RAID log anywhere near this.
I mean, you're right. I feel like someone had to have tried. I don't think it, like, right, with all that turnover, someone had to have tried. I feel like there's one that exists for a tiny period of time, and then that person went and cried in their car and couldn't keep going. Like, that's my experience take on this. Somebody was brought in to help who's good, and then was like, I am good. I won't be treated like that. Like, I am putting a lot of blame on this jerk, but I mean, if it's big enough to be brought up and made basically public as an issue, then it's a really big issue, because there's people who are rude and unkind that you never hear about. So if it's that bad, it has to be awful. Ugh, I feel so bad for these baby project managers. I feel so bad.
Wow, that was quite a journey, Kate.
So what do we think are the lessons not learned here?
To me, the lesson that I didn't see them learn through this was really, um, I want to start technical because it's just right in front of my nose, is configuration and change management, change control. Yeah, it's kind of maybe waterfallish, but you have to have it in circumstances like this. If you've got a contract where you have a deliverable, you have to agree on what are you delivering. Let's capture that. And if you're going to change that later, that's fine, but we're going to control that and have control over the data we need, the configurations that are made, communication over what is the right thing, have everybody involved, not have three departments that just aren't even there. Manage that configuration.
Sitting here knowing everything that happened, I don't know what part of the project I would specifically put this on. Right, you can manage projects the PMBOK way. But if you don't have any PMBOK or PMP training, I'm like, you have to write down what you're doing and then get everybody in a room and agree on that. That's a real basic thing with projects. That gives you informal authority. Like, you can create it for yourself by being a subject matter expert on what's going on. And I don't know why that didn't happen, but the lack of capturing what they were going to do down to the minutia is one of my biggest takeaways. I mean, if I was on this project, and again, I think you'd have to pay me specifically alone $15 million to do this project because it sounds miserable. So the state of Maine wants to hire me to do this for $15 million. I could get this done for you, but you have to pay me $15 million to do it. And also pay everybody else. So, I'm out of your budget probably, but I would be getting everybody in a room and then driving people to own the requirements and the scope and exactly what it is we are doing, and working with, like, if they're going to keep going forward with Workday, what does Workday need to know in order to implement this? How can we reverse engineer that out of the, what's that system called? Whatever their old system is for the state of Maine, whatever their ancient, box is. Like, how do we reverse engineer that out of the box? And then how would we, there was something in there about how testing can't be done very well. And it's like, well, how are we going to get there? Like, all of that has to be so meticulously walked through. And so you have to write down everything you're going to do. And then anytime any of it changes, to your point, go through that change management process. And it's both sides of it are non-existent. You can't do change management without agreeing on what you're going to do in the first place. And if you haven't, and then once you have agreed on it, you have to go through change management to be able to get that accurate project read at the end. I mean, this would have been a difficult project to do. Truly, really difficult.
It was going to be tough no matter what. You know what I think would have been good, and it's always, we're easy to be armchair quarterbacks because we don't even really necessarily have all the details, just whatever's publicly available. But when you have a project and it's gone so wrong that you kick your contractor out after 2 years, as happened the first time with the first contractor, that's when they should have had an independent third party come in and say what went wrong so we don't repeat this again. Not later on down when they've already maybe repeated all their mistakes. And maybe they did a lessons learned. I kind of doubt it. There's no record of it. And I can't believe that this was the result of after having a lessons learned. But having an independent third party after a project failure could have probably saved a whole lot of pain later.
Yeah. And so I think that's valuable to restate, right? Is that if your project goes through a really hard time, it's extremely valuable to say, hey, I just want to take us back. Like, I want us to huddle up as a team, talk about what did and didn't work, do a retrospective on that project, right? Use whatever language you've got to use, which again, right? Because I put a lot of blame on state manager here. State manager might have been like, it was all Infor. It was all Infor's fault. And as long as Infor is gone, there's no problems left on this project, which is ridiculous, right? It is rarely that like an entire organization is the problem, unless you have a situation like what the state of Maine is doing that's so dysfunctional that you can't get work done. So I'm really curious how much they implemented from those, that independent third party audit from I think it was IJA. I hope they followed literally any of those things. Probably would have improved their chances of project success.
It really would have. So, I don't usually feel sorry for big four consultancies because they usually take care of themselves pretty well. But I kind of wonder how they're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, for the employees of Maine, I hope this project is eventually completed.
Yeah.
But man, I really feel for the people who've worked on this project. This has got to be a miserable grind. And if I was a project sponsor, right? If they were like, okay, like you're such a successful, director, VP, whatever, right? Like, oh, you take this on. I'd be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. You can pay me $15 million to take that on. Oh, man. Yeah, it's tough. It's a rough spot. This is fun.
Yeah. Any other lessons learned we've got?
I feel like there's many, but I don't wanna overharp. I'm gonna keep going back to requirements, getting those people to agree, and then being able to do change management 100%. And I think you're brilliant with your insight of like, should have done this at the independent third party audit after 2 years of 15 million wasted dollars potentially. We don't know exactly how much was wasted at the beginning, but yeah, I doubt that a smaller consulting company worked for them for 2 years and then just paid them back $15 million. Like that's probably spent money.
And so, what do you think? What are some other lessons learned that you would take away from this particular project? Or are there some really cool analysis that you can take from this project that we might have missed? So please share it in the comments below if you've got any.
Yeah, smash that like button and let us know if you enjoyed this. Kim and I are on the hunt for more projects like this. If you want us to talk about them, if you have a favorite failed project, let us know. We'll do an analysis similar to this. This was really fun today. This is a good one.
This is good. Well, cheers to lessons not learned. Hopefully, we can take a couple home with us today.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, Kate.